short-term goals end up to long-term success. And so I think if people can really, like you said, have some bite-sized goals, not 10, but maybe accomplish these short term and build upon each other. That's what I would say, makes it worth it for people, because you'll see success. And that's almost like ongoing success. And, that creates momentum. If you have a small goal for January, or January's almost over, but then you have a small goal for February that built off the one in January, and you build over the course of the year, you'll look back and say, man, I was able to accomplish A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And I think that is how you make it worth it.
Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it.
Hey, babe, how you doing?
I'm good. I just had a huge yawn. So I think I'm tired, to be honest, but I'm good. I'm smiling.
Yeah,
we here.
You got to get yourself in gear.
You always say that.
Yeah. Well, I'm consistent.
Sometimes you're the one that's tired.
Well, this isn't one of those times.
Sometimes you have your nap time.
Yeah, don't hate on naps,
I wish I could be a napper.
Naps are good for you. So.
They are, and I wish I could be a napper. I'm so bad at it, and I'm a toddler, so I start falling asleep around 9:30, and lights out. I am unproductive after a certain hour.
Toddlers, you probably need a midday nap.
I wish. I need a toddler to teach me how to do it.
Okay. Well, look, it's 2025, and we are back at it. And I hope that people are staying the course. Like, we're almost a month in with January, and whatever you set as your goal and resolution, I hope you haven't pulled the eject already.
Yeah, so I saw a statistic that showed that 33% of people who set a resolution abandon it by the end of January. So... And I have to be clear. I kind of got an issue with resolutions because they're different to me than goals. I take issue with resolutions because there's just this rigidity. I can't even say it right. Rigidity around it. Like, it just has to be this way. It must be, this finite. I'm never going to do this again, or I'm going to do this forever. And I'm like, no, that's just not how I see things in gray matter, not total black and white.
You know what I can appreciate about New Year's resolutions is that people are trying to do something. People are trying to impact, their future. So
do you have resolutions in addition to goals?
I'm not particularly a resolution person, but I'm more of a just, be about your business kind of person.
Yeah, so...
and I know that could be very, like, in your face and abrupt for some people, but I feel like, I grew up, they always said, there ain't nothing to it but to do it. So I just have adopted that mentality in my life. So, but, for those people who are just joining us, we appreciate you. We're glad that you're rolling into 2025 with, For Better and Worth. And this is what you're going to get.
We may not always see eye to eye, but it's all good. So, okay. Yes. But I think we do see eye to eye around resolutions. We're not super big on that type of stuff. The one thing I will say is that our church does, prayer and fasting. And so I'll fast something. And essentially for like 3 weeks, I resolve that I'm not going to have sugar. And by today is day 8, I'm like, dude, I would love to have some brownies, a cookie, Dairy Queen, something. I need, but I'm good. I realize that I can do it. And so here we go for another couple weeks.
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate the fact that people are trying to proactively do something, change their situation, be intentional about something. I'm actually getting tired of talking about goals because we, check our previous, episodes out towards the end of last year and even the beginning of this year, we talked about goals and goal setting, and it is very important. And if you think about like people have already pulled the plug on some of the things they started doing, it's like, come on, you gotta have some discipline and some diligence to stick with it, because if you want to get an outcome, it's not always going to be easy. But you have to make some decisions and then stick with some of those decisions until you start to see the outcome you're looking for.
So for business purposes, instead of an annual goal, I actually set a quarterly goal. I have 3 major initiatives to get done outside of the normal routine day-to-day stuff. But the 3 major things to accomplish in the first quarter. And likely I'll have two of them done in the first 2 months.
Well, let's think about this, though. I mean, I think having business goals is definitely important, because I know just for me, I have quarterly priorities from a work perspective, and I focus in on those things for that quarter, and they may change the next quarter. But let's talk about like couples and how they have to have priorities or goals, maybe not so much resolutions, but you have to have something that you're doing and you have to stick to it. Mm-hmm. And I think a quarterly check-in is probably good to see if you're on track.
I've done it differently with business nearly every year in the last several years. And I think that that's a really good thing. Maybe you need to shake it up. And so I bring it up because I think that that might be something for people to consider as they're trying to figure out their household goals and things like that. Maybe it's not, what am I going to do in September? Maybe it's what I'm going to do in the first quarter. And that's just a different way of looking at it. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big, huge thing. Maybe you just need to get to that first finish line and then reassess what's needed. Because sometimes we pivot. Last year, we actually pivot in first quarter and had to change up some of our goals and revisit what it looks like to accomplish something. And so I think it's a good idea to, that's the reason I bring it up, is because I think it's a good idea to look at it in a new way.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that people can stay, or couples can stay, motivated to work on their finances. Mm-hmm. Because when I think about it, I know we sat down and we started out with a list of goals, like financially, of what we wanted for 2025. And so we're in the process of those. We haven't started checking those goals off yet, but we're focused on them. And I think one way that couples can stay, motivated is, like we talked about, maybe checking in quarterly to see how you're progressing on those. But I would say even just connecting monthly to see if anything has changed. Mm-hmm. Like if you need to say, well, this isn't something that we really want to focus on, because you know how we are. We decide to do something. Let me back up. We decide to do something, we stay pretty focused.
You and I.
Yes, we stay pretty focused on it. But I think couples have to make sure that they are in alignment moving forward. Mm-hmm. Like I say, even as January is coming to an end, be thinking about like, well, is this what we still want to work on? Mm-hmm. And if it is, and you both agree to that, then okay, stay focused on whatever that thing is, be it, saving money for emergency fund, be it paying off debt, be it saving for a big purchase that you put a date on when you like to purchase it. I think those are all things that are important, because I know sometimes it changes.
Have you had a goal that was different from my goal, or interfered, or might have bumped up against a goal that I have?
That's a good question. I think this is what I would say. What always kind of bumps up against each other is I'm a big advocate of having more in liquid savings than you are probably a proponent of.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, look, you never know when the rainy day comes, you never know what that rainy day is going to look like.
Yeah.
And I'm on the side of, preparation. Well, success is when opportunity and preparation meet.
Yeah.
And so when that opportunity presents itself, if we're prepared, we can be successful.
Yeah. I think that where we differ probably routinely is in the amount that we would spend on something.
Yeah, that's true.
In the amount, so
That's true.
the amounts in our heads are always different. And somebody
Just say it. Just say it. I always want to spend more.
Yeah, you like to spend money.
Yeah, I always want to spend
no.
more.
So let's be clear. Do you like to spend money or it just doesn't bother you?
It's two things. One, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And two, I want to get the best that I can get for the money that I'm going to spend.
So you can be both. You can be a person who really believes that we need to have a high emergency fund and a person who likes to spend higher amounts of money than their spouse.
Yes,
And
you can be both.
Exactly. And I'm a person who's like, okay, I like an emergency fund, but it doesn't have to be as high as you. And I can also be a person who's like, oh Lord, I'm not trying to spend no money. So like you would think that those would be different. You would think that the person who really wants the high emergency fund would be also the person who's like, let's not spend. And the person who's like, it's not a big deal if we have a big emergency fund will be the one who wants to spend more money. But that's not the case. Yeah. Like it's not as it seems.
I think it's interesting that both can exist.
Exactly.
And still have success.
Yes. Yes.
And that's where I think people have to, that's why I say have a monthly check-in, because like we're two very different people, but we align on so many things and we compromise. And so I think you got to get away from the money side of it and think about the relationship side of it, because compromise in relationships is important. And it's not always that you're giving something up or you feel like you're giving something up so somebody else can get what they want. Sometimes it's just a meeting of the minds coming to a middle ground, because sometimes I may want to spend more for something than you want to, but typically we will compromise. You'll up your level and I'll decrease my level to some degree, and we meet in the middle. And I feel like that's what happens in relationships. You have to be willing to compromise around some of these things, because every time, and the people who follow us and watch us and listen, they know we've said it before. The times that I have been adamant about saving, it was, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because, it revealed itself, or, God showed us what we were doing or why we were doing it, and it always played out.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the important part to remember, is that I'm not trying to do us harm, I'm trying to do us good.
Right. And I think intention is the biggest thing here, right? We have to think the best of our partner. The other thing that I'll say, though, I think here's where I think, myself included, where we get off is we can say, oh, I messed up, forget it, throw caution to the wind, it doesn't work, or I'm not doing it, or I'm not built for this, and we let go of our goal, or we say it's too hard. And so I want to just encourage people. One, I feel like we've all had those moments where we're like, oh, shoot, I done messed up, or I fell off the wagon, or I spent too much money, or an emergency came up and I'm frustrated with life. And what happens is we end up abandoning, our goals or our resolutions because life hits you sideways. And it's cliche, but we got to get back up again. Like we got to, because life is going to always throw us at the thing that I think I'm learning in the last couple of years is that not only is life not easy, but life doesn't let up. And so
it keeps coming.
It just keeps coming at you. And in order to really make progress with your money, you actually have to have extreme resilience. And I've got a t-shirt that says resilient. And I love wearing that because it is a reminder to myself that I need to be resilient, get back up again when stuff doesn't go all the way right, when the market is down, when something was more expensive than I wanted it to be, or when we in the same month have to go get a dishwasher and we got to go get something fixed in the house, and we have put a down payment deposit on our couch, like all the things that happen at one time. And we're just like, all right, it's not too hard to still accomplish what it is you desire to accomplish, even if it's slow moving, And so, life is, I think I have learned to say, I know life is going to hit me sideways. So how do I need to posture myself so that I can still get where I'm trying to go?
So it's interesting how you say that, because I'm thinking about in those situations where you got to be resilient. I feel like, you got to celebrate small wins along the way too. Like find places where you were successful. Because I think about those same things and I'm like, man, thank God we have an emergency fund.
That part. I was thinking that same thing.
Or thank God that, we can make this decision because we made other decisions before this.
Right.
So like if a dishwasher, I was surprised how much a dishwasher costs people.
I'm mad. I was so mad.
I was like, Jesus, we might need to just be washing dishes at home.
have a hole in our kitchen with nothing in there.
I just leave it there, but just not in use. But when it came, it was like, okay, well, just get the one you want.
Yeah.
Because again,
yeah,
I want to get the best I can for the money. I want the better quality per se or features because I'm not planning on spending this money again.
Do you remember that TV show? I cannot remember the name of the TV show. I used to watch it. I loved it. They were quirky and their dishwasher did not work.
Oh.
They lived in Indiana.
Oh, The Middle.
The Middle. Oh my gosh.
Middle.
Oh my gosh. I loved The Middle.
Yeah, I remember that dishwasher used to be broken.
They dishwasher never worked. And I was just, it was just hilarious to me. The amount of things that just would go wrong in their house. But
that was the whole premise of the show.
It was.
Things were going to go wrong.
It was.
But I think when things happen in life, like, the dishwasher broke and it was, wasn't a couple $1,000s, but it was,
No, it was $1,300. What all in because the dishwasher itself was less than $1,000, but when you add on, they're gonna drop it off, haul away. You know what I mean? Delivery, install. all the things. I'm like, come on, goodness.
Right, but we could just say, okay, just do it because we had an emergency fund.
And you know what? I remember the day I went to you, and I said, I do not want to go into this holiday with this dishwasher because it had been few things had been falling apart on it or not working or the dishes weren't getting quite as clean or the rack was just falling off and we would just act like that. I don't even
know how it got to that point. It's not like we are rough people.
No,
things,
but we just didn't pay it enough attention. And I think one day you said, we need to call the warranty people about this dishwasher. And I was like, okay. And we just kept putting that off. We had a lot of other stuff going on. And it was the beginning of December. And I said, you know what? I said, I think I'm ready for this dishwasher. Like, I don't want to have the holidays with everybody home and not be able to wash these dishes whenever we want to and feel good about, like, we ain't going to tear it up and be without a dishwasher for a week. I don't want that.
But I think this is an example of how something small, like making a purchase of a dishwasher, still requires some conversation. Mm-hmm. And just imagine, like, people or couples that are listening to this that are dealing with things, X times bigger than that. Mm-hmm. You definitely will have to stop and have a conversation around what we're doing, how we're going to do it, why we're doing it, and then make some joint decisions around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the good things about, like, if you have already given up on some of your goals, maybe it's time to just press pause and reevaluate and say, how are we going to get where we want to go this year? Because we've talked about, like, investing, and it's the perfect time to, get going with that, your 401k or IRAs or different things. But you have to really just continue to be persistent. And I like your word resilient, mm-hmm. because things are going to come your way that will make you want to say, well, you know what? We're not just going to do this. We're not going to do this because this is hard or it's challenging or it's tough. But I push you to stick with it because on the other side of that challenging, rough, tough situation is success. And it feels good to be over in that land of success.
Yeah. And I think it's that bounce back ability, right? Like it's that, all right, you know what? You got to have some wherewithal, like, all right, you know what? Bring it on, because I can handle it. And that, what do you tell us? You say to us and to the dog, you like, I'm gonna need you to take some of that bass out your voice. Like, when you gotta like maybe dig a little deeper, and say, you know what, I don't care what the world brings me. I'm ready. We about to do this. We about to make some, because if you have that tenacity, then it doesn't matter what comes. You're like, all right, I need to pivot, or I need to make this adjustment, or I'm going to do it differently this time in order to see the results, or I'm just going to take my time and not assume it can happen so quickly, or I'm going to get wise counsel. Like, whatever it is you need to do in order to maintain your tenacity, your resilience, your boldness, because then when life comes, because life will come, and I feel like life comes faster and more often, as time progresses, that I think we don't have any choice but to figure out how deep do we need to dig in order to ensure that we're going to see the success we want.
Look, I know on the other side of our dishwasher purchase is, I was like, man, is the dishwasher running?
I know.
I can't even hear it.
I know. And the other part of that, you said it, like, thank God you have the money to go do that.
Yeah.
And to make that choice without it causing a financial upheaval during the holidays.
I think that's always the position I take, because the alternate to that is if you don't have it and you can't do it. Because I know there were times when we were first married, or years ago, when things would come up and it'd be like a major catastrophe, where it's like, oh man, we can't do it, or it's this thing that is prohibiting us. So I land on the side of, man, well, thank God that we're able to do it, or we're able to do a repair, or go a place, or do whatever, and not have a financial, strapping. And so I always have to think about it in that way. And there's so many things that try to derail us from our goals. And a lot of times we're our own saboteurs.
Yeah.
Because we get caught up with doing things that we know we shouldn't do. And I always say this. People have money to do what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people are making decisions to do this versus that. And so I think one of the biggest sabotage things out there is yourself. I'm looking at you right now. I'm pointing at people who can't see me right now, saying it's you.
You know what? When I was in a coach training, one of the things that we learned was how to overcome objections. And people pay for coaching themselves. And an objection is usually, well, I can't afford it. And so in training, I thought it was great. And I used this for several years, just even in my just mental. I might not say it out loud to a potential client, but I would think about this, is that, when people say they don't have enough money to do a thing, you say, okay, well, do you have a big screen TV on your wall? And how much did that cost? Or how much are you paying for your kids to be in these sports? Or when was the last time you took a vacation? Or do you have a specific handbag in your closet? Or as simple as, do you own a pair of Jordans? You know what I'm saying?
I think you're illustrating the point that I just made, is that people can afford what they want to afford.
Or how much did you spend on dining out? When you call people on their particular bias, or their particular, what do you call it? It's a thorn in the side, or their temptation, or whatever it is, then you can find the money for what it is that they want. So, if we had not, now we did spend quite a bit on entertainment during the holidays with our family. We had a good time. We enjoyed ourselves.
But it was the holidays.
And so we might have, had we decided, oh, we're not going to go out to eat, oh, we're not going to go do all of this entertainment, then we would be able to pay for the dishwasher without going in savings. You know what I mean? Like when we add it all up.
True.
And so,
but I had both my kids home.
I know that, but look,
And
these
so-
are the justifications.
That's right.
I'm not
I'm
saying
gonna have my fun.
I
with
know,
my
but I'm
babies
just
home.
listen. See, this is
You know.
now you the client who
And
justifying the
look,
actions.
Look, get your hands off of me.
Now you the client, but that's real because
Yes.
the thing is
We could have sacrificed part of our goal
Exactly.
for something else that wasn't written.
That's
and
right.
that's what I think that's the point we're getting at, is that people make different decisions all the time.
Yeah.
You start out fast, you know, I'm on it. Just like we went to the gym over the holidays, I was like, man, where all these cars come from? Like, it's starting already. I think it was like January 1st or 2nd.
It was the
like,
second.
It's like, all these people here, like, what's good? Okay, let's see what happens in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And like we go back and see if the cars are still there, and some of them are still there, but some of them gone already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't let you be the people who started out but you didn't finish.
Right. Right. And I think too, like it's also about how bad you want it. It's like, how bad do you want a specific goal? I think a trap that people fall into where it concerns goal setting or resolutions is that they have too many of them. That they literally have like 10. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I had written out all my goals. It was a full sheet of paper, and I would put it right next to the bed when I would wake up so I could see it. And I promise you, I ignored that thing all the time because it was so long. First of all, when you're trying to get the crust out your eyes, you're trying to wake up and focus, and it's dark, ain't nobody looking at this. This is not motivating me and helping me to actually pay attention to my goals. And so, but I had too many of them. Now, it's like 3. It's like I have 3 business goals for the quarter. We have about 3 goals for the year for our finances.
I have four down for our finances, but one of them, spills into 2026 because I wrote 2025 and 2026, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but it's not that many.
Like 10.
It's not a ton of goals. It's just a few that you can remember. If you need a sheet of paper for your goals, it's too many.
And the good thing is, like, I'll just use us as an example because that's the best example, is tapping into our own experience. Our goals are actually build off of one another.
Yeah.
Because when I check one thing off, it kind of bleeds into the next goal that helps feed that goal. Then when I accomplish that next goal, it bleeds into the next goal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important thing, is like, don't try and set all these big audacious things that you want to do, but kind of, stagger them.
Maybe do one at a time.
Yeah, you meet this one thing. It's almost like that snowball effect. You meet this one thing, pick up some momentum and knock that second thing out. Then when you knock that second thing out, take that momentum from those first couple things and get on to the third thing. And it's okay if it takes all year to accomplish those things, but how much better will you feel accomplishing a few things versus accomplishing nothing?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I was just thinking about what was accomplished in the previous year. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for 365 days and what's possible. And the small wins are really important too.
I got to say this because, with the pending TikTok ban.
Oh, Lord.
I saw a video on TikTok, and it was like right at the beginning of the year, and they had this savings box that you could buy, and TikTok is always selling stuff, right?
You have bought some stuff off TikTok.
I have. I'm always tempted to buy some stuff because I'd be like, oh, I might need that. But then I'd be like, do I really need that? But it was this box that people would buy because people need, like, let's be honest, people need gimmicks sometimes to get them to save.
Yeah.
But it was a box that somebody, if you put money in it, it had a bunch of like numbers on a grid, and every time you put that dollar amount in the box, you check it off.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then when you check all the numbers off over the course of the year, they had saved like $10,000.
That's okay. You know what? I promise you, Faith said that to us. Our daughter actually mentioned it to me. Now, she didn't have a box, but it's just a matrix.
Yes.
And then she would cross off that she saved that amount.
And they had like a few different kinds. Like if you want to save 1,000, they had one.
Yep.
2,000, 3,000, 10,000. But I think some people need that, like to just check it off. And it's better to, check it off and have met that goal and it sets you up, like, especially if you could start on, say, just got to hit this $1,000, boom, get that done. Then you feel good, like I saved $1,000, then go to 2,000.
Saved 1,000, didn't touch it.
Right. And, clearly you can get in and out of the box. So you have to have the discipline to not go into it.
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of a cool
Yeah.
thing to do, because that's the power of kind of a short-term goal.
I think that's cool. I think, hey, by any means necessary, let's figure that junk out. I mean, because I was going to even offer, sometimes, okay, so typically the two things that we're talking about is saving or paying off debt. Right. So it's depending on what
investing.
But it's still saving.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So I say make it automatic. Like if you can break yours into short bite-sized chunks, like how much per month do you need to either save or put on to debt in order to get it done, and make it automatic. Make that particular item on your budget a bill that comes out on a specific date that you set, and make it happen. And I feel like we can make this harder than it has to be, because we don't utilize the tools. Like you just shared a tool. Use the tools that will help make it easier for you to get it done.
Look, we have some friends and they were talking about how they save for a car. Like they have cars that are paid for. So instead of what they did was they still basically paid themselves a car payment every month. And so when they're ready to buy a new car, they'll have the trade-in value of their current cars. Plus they've got the money to buy a new car. They may not even need to trade in because they've been just putting money in like they were buying a car every month for years. So then when you are ready, they just say, okay, I'm just going to go and buy a car. And I know that's a big deal, but if you've been making a car payment, that's one way to continue to do it. And there's a lot of different tricks and strategies that we have to utilize to trick ourselves almost to stay consistent with producing the outcomes that we're looking to produce.
And that's all right. I feel like, hey, that's it. If it helps you win, I'm all about
whatever
it.
it takes.
Let's go. So let's talk about it. What'll make it worth it for you today, babe?
I think my make it worth it is, short-term goals end up to long-term success. And so I think if people can really, like you said, have some bite-sized goals, not 10, but maybe accomplish these short term and build upon each other. That's what I would say, makes it worth it for people, because you'll see success. And that's almost like ongoing success. And, that creates momentum. If you have a small goal for January, or January's almost over, but then you have a small goal for February that built off the one in January, and you build over the course of the year, you'll look back and say, man, I was able to accomplish A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And I think that is how you make it worth it. So what about you? What would you say is your make it worth it?
I think we ought to expect the unexpected. I honestly just think that we need to know life is going to hit you sideways, and I'm going to have a plan to bounce back regardless. And because life isn't going to be a smooth road. Just because you decided to do something really wonderful for your finances or in your relationship doesn't mean that you're not going to get hit with something sideways that is going to potentially take you off track. And so expect it, and figure out for yourself what tenacity, what resilient nature, what thing is going to help you get aggressive again and get that bass in your voice again about this goal, because
expect the unexpected.
Yeah, I just think we have to know that life isn't going to be a straight road to this journey. And so I'm learning that in some other areas of my life, and I feel like in finances, it's the same thing too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know life isn't just about money, it's about having goals for your relationship and how you want to grow. Because I will say this, I want to see us go out, do more things one-on-one, you and I this year. We got a bunch of travel before us, so that'll be exciting because we'll get one-on-one time. But we talk a lot about money, but relationships are at the center of all of this. So don't lose sight of your relationship goals for the year as well, because that is very important, because you can't meet those other goals if your relationship goals by the wayside.
Yep.
So,
yep. Well, this has been good. Yes. I mean, I'm hopeful that people will take some of these tactics and these tools and make sure that they have a solid, they feel good at the end of the year this year. So until next time.
We're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.